It's not uncommon to go online and see someone saying, hey, $100,000 is not a lot of money. And every time I hear that, I always laugh because it's just completely ridiculous. Number one, only 15 to 16% of all Americans make six figures a year. So that's men, women, and it doesn't matter the age group. And two, it's just simply not true. But if you're online, of course, everybody's making six figures a year because it's just so easy. And the problem with that is that we live in a society and a time where we're constantly comparing ourselves to others. So if you're comparing yourself to someone who's online claiming to make a bunch of money or claiming to have a certain lifestyle when they really don't, then you're going to start to feel like that you're behind. Now, I always say that comparison is the thief of joy, and that's exactly what happens. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over 5 signs that you're doing better financially than you think you are. And the very first sign is that you have an emergency fund. I was reading an article earlier today, and it said that 59% of Americans could not handle a $1,000 emergency if an issue arose. And when I think about that, that's a crazy stat. Nearly 6 out of 10 Americans cannot afford a $1,000 emergency if something were to happen. So if you have 3 to 6 months of bills in a high yield savings account sitting on the sidelines in an emergency fund, you're doing much better than 6 out of 10 of all people in the United States. Now, a lot of us don't think about it, but when you break it down to that micro of a level, you start to understand that you're actually doing pretty well. Now, I remember when I was younger and I didn't have an emergency fund, and I probably only had $200 to $300 in my bank account at the end of every month if I was lucky. I never thought about how I could build out an emergency fund and kind of become my own bank, meaning if something were to happen, I wouldn't have to rely on credit cards or to go into debt to make sure that I can actually pay for the things that I needed at that time. So if you have an emergency fund set up, you're doing pretty well. Sign number 2 is you do not have a ton of consumer debt. Here in the US, we love debt. We love to have things and we want it now and we'll worry about paying for it later. In fact, we have surpassed $1 trillion in credit card debt, which is absolutely crazy. If you are someone that doesn't have a lot of debt, then you're ahead of tons of Americans because the average household has about $7,000 to $8,000 worth of credit card debt. Combining $7,000 to $8,000 of credit card debt with the fact that most Americans cannot afford a $1,000 emergency, then you start to really see that you're doing much better than you actually think you are. And when we think about consumer debt, we think about car loans, we think about credit cards, Klarna, Afterpay, buy now, pay later, all of that. All that's in the same bucket. And here in the United States, collectively, it has a chokehold on our wallets. Sign number 3 that you're doing better financially than you think you are is you have a 401k and/or you have a brokerage account that you contribute to on a monthly basis. And the fact of the matter is there are so many people that do not participate in the stock market. And when I was younger, I was one of those people. I didn't understand what it took to build wealth, what the path to build wealth was. But once I learned that investing in your retirement account, investing in a brokerage account, just investing in general is one of the best ways to actually start building wealth because it has one of the lowest barriers to entry. I mean, you can get started with investing in the stock market with as little as $5. And if you're working at a company that actually provides you with the 401k match, then you're actually doubling the amount that you're able to contribute every single time you get paid. So if you have one or both of these accounts that you're contributing to, you're well ahead of the average person. Even those people that are online claiming that they have so much money when they really don't. You're ahead of them as well. The 4th sign that you are doing better financially than you think that you are is that you make an above average salary. Now, the average salary in the US is around $50,000 to $60,000 per year. And yes, I know that's a lot different than what you're told online because again, everybody's making 6 figures a year. But the fact of the matter is most people are in that $50,000 to $60,000 a year price range. Now, Now, there are some outliers out there. If you live in California or if you live in New York, you may make a little bit more money, but if you're digging into the data and the statistics, it's the overall average across the country. So there may be some outliers in some other states, but the average is the average for a reason, because that's what most people are actually making. Now, the cost of living is really what's going to skew whether or not that's a pretty good salary for the area that you're in. Now, if you're making more than the average person in the US, you're doing well. And if you combine that with not having much debt or no debt at all, you're really propelling yourself into the top echelon of the number of people in the US that are actually living really well. We all know someone that's making between $50,000 to $60,000, $65,000 a year that seem to be living pretty well. They have a nice car, they've got a nice house, and we often try to understand how are they able to pull that off. If you're able to manage your money effectively, it can go so much further than you think that it can. In the fifth sign that you're doing better financially than you think you are is that you have a budget and you stick to it. I can't tell you how much my life has changed just from starting to budget. Back in the day, I wanted to go through, I didn't need a budget. I knew where everything was. I was hard-headed. I was one of those people that just thought budgeting just wasn't worth it. But once I actually sat down and really started budgeting and living by that budget, things became so much more easier, especially knowing that I had the same amount of money that I was investing in the stock market every single month. I had set amount of money that I knew that I could go out with my family. If we wanted to go out to dinner, we wanted to go out to eat, whatever it was in the budget. If I had the car that I wanted at that point, it was in my budget. I was able to pay for it. It made life so much easier, and it prevents you from going into unnecessary debt, because that's the biggest thing, right? I think people that make an average to an above average salary, if they would actually sit down and take the time and start budgeting and get rid of the things that are liabilities in their lives, like credit cards and things of that nature, you can live a much better life and actually feel like you're starting to get ahead financially. Guys, I know it's tough out there with everybody talking about how well they're doing, but when you really peel back the layers, most of us are not doing as well as we say that we are. But it's easy to change that. There are actual things that you can do to change your financial life much quicker than you think. All right, guys, so what do you think? I know there are a few additional things that I could have covered in today's video that show that you're doing much better financially than you think you are. So I'm gonna be asking you guys, what do you guys think that I should have added to my list? And what are some of the things or some of the signs that you see that makes you realize that, hey, maybe I'm doing a little better than I thought I was?